Welcome. This is Josh Milliken from Dread Central, and I am thrilled to be hosting a virtual Q&A for Dreamkatcher, a brand new supernatural horror movie that's now available to stream. I'm here with the director of the film, Carrie Harris, and with the film's lead actors, Lynn Shay, Rhoda Mitchell, Jules Wilcox, and Finn Votek Hisong.
Yay!
To everyone. I'm so glad you could all be here. And before we launch in, I think it's the perfect time to show everyone the trailer for Dreamkatcher. Let's check it out.
Welcome to paradise.
It's nice.
Peaceful.
Oh, I was gonna say terrifying.
What does that say?
Looks like dream catchers.
Did you know that the spirits wander through these woods?
Do all these catch bad dreams?
Some do. Some catch evil spirits.
Josh.
He's never had nightmares before, not like this.
As a psychotherapist, I can tell you kids have issues.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm so tired.
Josh, dreams don't come from out here. They come from in here.
You're in control.
I'm in control.
That's right.
Josh! Hey, Josh!
Your nightmares
Where is it? You're both in danger. You need to destroy it.
can't be
Did you do this?
Gail, come on.
controlled.
He's experiencing latent violent tendencies.
It's not Josh. It's this. It can't be destroyed. There is something living in there.
Rhoda Mitchell, Henry Thomas, and Lynn Shay.
Josh!
I'm in control. I'm in control.
Who's in control?
Dreamkatcher.
Fantastic. Dreamkatcher is playing now, and we're here with the director, among others, Carrie Harris. Welcome. I understand there's some very good news about Dreamkatcher that you were sharing with us during the technical check. Why don't you let the rest of our viewers know?
The good news I was very curious to see is that I guess we're the #1 streaming movie right now in the United States. And then I realized it took me a minute or two to put together that actually that means we're the #1 movie in the United States because they're only streaming movies right now. So,
Congratulations.
so by default, it's become the #1 movie. But thank you everyone for watching the movie. It's been great that a lot of people have dove in like right from this morning and started watching, which is great. And we're apparently the number 23 in illegal downloads. So
That's really
not just the US. We're number 23
all over the world.
Yeah.
We're the most illegitimate movie in the world.
Interesting thing to brag about.
23rd most illegitimate.
Well, there you go. Congratulations. That's such a great accomplishment for you and the entire cast. Well done. I was looking at your IMDb page, Carrie, and there's really not a lot about you. Do you want to let us know how you got into filmmaking?
I got into filmmaking. I started as an assistant, which a lot of people do in Hollywood. And I was assistant to Bob Weinstein at Miramax. So, there's obviously Harvey, who's fairly notorious, and there was Bob, his brother. So I started out as Bob's assistant. Then I moved up to a company that became Lionsgate, funnily enough, who's distributing this movie in Canada, and worked for them in supervising production for a long time. And then, but I'd wanted to write and direct, moved to LA, and it took me a long time to get anything made. And I was sort of giving up, and then I was in a buffet line, and someone asked what I was working on, and I told them this idea for a movie, and they said, my boss will buy that on Monday. And I didn't believe them. And then I got a call on Monday saying, "Where are you? My boss is waiting for you to hear this, the movie idea." I was like, I told you a buffet line. Are you serious?" He's like, "Yeah, you've got to get down here." So I went down and pitched a comedy that I was working on, and they bought it on the spot, which is something that doesn't usually happen. And it never ended up getting made, but at least it kind of got me going. And then I did a bunch of 2 different web series. One with my friend Jack Dishel called Drivers, that Macaulay Culkin was the star of, and it was basically bad Uber rides in LA. And so we had celebrities in each episode kind of playing different Uber drivers. There was Jeff Garlin. Tom Petty was actually in one with Riz Ahmed. Darren Criss, who's known for Glee. Seth Green was in one. So we just sort of got all these great people involved in it. And then I did another web series called Grip and Electric that was basically about a bunch of Grips and Electrics who rented a truck out on Craigslist. And basically each episode was going, the original idea was each episode they would be going to another impossibly crappy film job in LA. And actually Lynn was in Grip and Electric, and that's when we first met. And she played sort of a terrible stage mom who is self-financing a music video for her equally terrible daughter.
Fantastic. Well, we're so glad to have you here. Really excited about Dreamkatcher. Let me introduce the cast a little more properly. Great English. But before I do that, I wanted to let everyone know who's watching on Facebook that you can submit your questions for the cast and the director of Dreamkatcher. And the first 10 people who do submit questions are going to get free digital codes to see Dreamkatcher right now. So as soon as the Q&A wraps up, if you haven't seen it already, you'll be able to see it for free. So start sending those questions in on Facebook. Gregory Burkhart is part of the Dread team. He'll be fielding those questions and sending you your digital codes. But let's say hi to the cast. Lynn Shay, 2015, you were named the Godmother of Horror at Wizard World Comic Con. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for asking. Well, I'm doing as well as expected, I guess. It's up and down time. I mean, this is the highlight of my week. Well, so thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure and our honor.
Maybe last month is the highlight of the last month. So
I know you've got some other great things going on right now too, because during our tech check, you were talking about your upcoming role on Penny Dreadful. Actually, you're currently playing role on Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, I'm really honored. I think John Logan, who is our producer, director, writer, chief of all things, is an extraordinary man in so many ways. Also one of the most genuinely kind and inclusive people I've ever met. I mean, I really have never met anybody quite like him. And he's written this exquisite 10-episode storyline. It's not anything to do with the other Penny Dreadfuls, to be honest. It's about Los Angeles, 1938, about the Mexican-American clash at that time, where they were trying to build highways through Mexican neighborhoods. It's about Nazism in Los Angeles, which people don't realize. Hitler wanted LA. He targeted us. And I play a Nazi hunter named Dottie Minter. It gives me chills. I'm so excited about it. And Nathan Lane and I are partners. He's a detective. He's a Jewish detective in Los Angeles. And you don't know too much about Dottie. John Logan very cleverly has put in through the episodes, you learn about who she has been in her life. She's an old woman, literally. Literally, here she is, getting older by the minute. But she was a revolutionary in her day. She was an anarchist, and she's a tough babe.
Right on. And the first episode's streaming now on Showtime?
The first episode is on now. Dottie appears in the second episode. I'm in 6 of the 10. There's a lot of wonderful characters. I mean, it's a really rich tapestry of life in Los Angeles in 1938, 100% reflective of, unfortunately, what's going on right now in our world with our government and our country. So that was
definitely.
and that was why John wrote it. He said he was inspired by our fearless leader.
Well, we'll definitely have to check it out and think about that. Speaking of interesting characters, you play a very interesting character in Dreamkatcher. When I think about the parts you've played, it seems like you either play very heroic characters who are very comforting, or you play these really kind of off-kilter characters who do anything but comfort. Now, Ruth is kind of somewhere right in the middle. There's almost a little bit of a maternal relationship with Finn's character, but at the same time, there's something about Ruth that is not completely benign. Can you talk a little bit about that character and your approach to playing it?
She's kind of a victim of circumstances in a certain way. I think she was a pretty normal grandmother and family, had a fairly normal family. The people in actually where we filmed, you get an inkling of who they're not mountain people, but they're small town people. And there's a sort of circumscription of how they live their lives. It's very traditional in certain respects. It's very predictable. It's very routine. And her life is tremendously, and I even hate to use that word. It reminds me of somebody else, but she's very involved with her family, and there's a terrible thing that happens with her grandson, and you don't really know too much about that. So her malevolence is not so much from her roots, so to speak. It's sort of circumstantial, and she's hiding secrets. She's hopeful on some level that this evil thing that has come into her life is controllable, but she discovers it's not. And I think that's a really important element of this film, is that evil is really not controllable. It controls whatever it touches. And she's trying to harbor it and protect other parts of her life from it, but it's impossible and it gets out. And so she has to meet that challenge. So I think she's a victim of circumstances in many ways.
That's it. It's a very, very unique character, and I was really, really impressed. Thank you again for being here, Radha. Let me talk to you a little bit. Welcome, first of all. Our viewers definitely know you from Silent Hill, Pitch Black, The Crazies. How have you been doing?
Good. Actually, today better. It's been an interesting episode for everybody. I'm in sort of near the beach, so it's okay. But it's like a tempting lure that you're not allowed to go to. But a lot of time cleaning the dishes and washing the floor and disinfecting the door handles. And some time to reflect on, other things. And like Lynn said, this is kind of great. It's great to have something in this moment to kind of share with people, and also just to kind of engage with ourselves.
Absolutely. What I love, there's a lot to like about Dreamkatcher. What I loved was the scariness of it, but underneath it all, there's also a really poignant, important story about blended families, which was really touching. Do you want to talk a little bit about your character in Dreamkatcher?
I mean, I think I was talking to someone about it, and they're like, "Oh, this movie's really interesting. It's like mommy horror, and then it's kid horror." But I'm like, "Yeah, it's also stepmom horror." It's like, what attracted me to the script was the kind of the nuance of it, and the kind of human drama elements, and the way it was directed was sort of very naturalistic. So the build to the final sequences kind of it becomes like a surprising point. And that works because a lot of it is just the kind of weird interplay between Finn's character and my character, both characters sort of longing for each other in some capacity. Like, I think Gail really would like to have a child. She's lost a child, and he's lost his mother, played by Jules, in a very tragic way. And, is sort of just a kid kind of just keeping up here and is obviously having these like crazy dreams. And so she's trying to reach through to him, and I think he doesn't want anything to do with her. But then, so there's this kind of duality in their relationship. I found that interesting. And I liked that it's almost adult in the way they communicate. He doesn't, and Finn, you'll get to meet him now, is very sort of self-possessed and has a very kind of clear perspective on the world. So he, as much as he has this beautiful vulnerability that I think her maternal kind of nature was trying to connect with, he's also a little, not going to use the word.
You could say
You have to watch the movie.
He's a difficult child. And so there's like this really interesting frisson that I, kind of liked. And Gail, obviously, she's coming in as a psychotherapist. She thinks she's going to like save the family on some level. And obviously things don't go the way she expects, and her rational perspective is deconstructed, and she sees the world in a whole new light by the end of the film.
Right. Well, I think that's a perfect segue to talking to Finn, since we've been talking about Finn. Finn, how are you?
Good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, and thank you for being here. I mean, it really is a testament, to have you participating. Your character is very mature, and just having you participate in this panel is a very mature thing. I don't think I've ever done a panel with an actor as young as you. But clearly, from the praise you've received from your colleagues, you are very intelligent, and we're very pleased to have you here.
Yes, I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you really carry the film in a lot of ways, and if there wasn't an actor who was as convincing as you were, the film might not have had the impact it absolutely does. Yeah. And I wanted to remind our viewers that you did another horror movie recently. You starred in the Banana Splits remake.
Yes, that was a very fun movie to film too.
I bet, all those animatronic creatures. Yeah. So how weird is it that you're making these movies, you're starring in these movies that technically you're too young to even see?
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I first started, I thought like kids couldn't be in horror movies. And I thought I was just gonna do all these lighthearted movies. But I really enjoy the horror aspect of movies.
Fantastic. So can we expect to see you in more horror movies?
I hope so.
Well, we hope so too. I'd like to see you battle a few more creatures from the darkness.
Yes.
You seem to hold your own very, very well, and we're really glad to have you here. And finally, we have Jules Wilcox. How are you, Jules?
I'm good. Hanging in there.
Right on. Your character, like Lynn's, is very complicated. Kind of dancing here because I don't want to give too much away, but I want to let people know just what makes this character so unique. You're playing, someone who's no longer living, but you're also not really playing who you're presenting to be. How did you approach playing this very unique, layered role?
Well, it's interesting because it's almost like it's playing two different characters basically. And originally, like, we talked about like how much of Mother bleeds into other things. Trying to dance around things.
I know, right? See the movie, you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
But I'm just basically a loving mother to my child. I'm just gonna say that. But there were fun physical challenges and like ways of transformation that I got to play with, which was really fun because you hardly ever get to do that on film. You really don't.
Right.
Maybe theater, but like in this, it was really cool.
Speaking of those challenges, we do have a clip from Dreamkatcher that features you. John is working tag. John, do we have the clip lined up? All right, let's check out the clip of Jules and Finn in Dreamkatcher.
Joshy? Joshy. Hey, kiddo. It's me.
Mom? Mom?
He's never had nightmares before, not like this.
There is a theory that suggests that we are all the characters in our dreams. So if Josh's mom is splitting, then it could be that he's just leaving behind past trauma. So could be a really good thing.
This is a good thing. I don't want to know what a bad one is.
All right, we're back. So, yeah, Jules, that was kind of a head-splitting scene.
So to speak.
So to speak.
Finn, what was it like filming that crazy scene? Were there ever times where you were scared making the movie?
Well, I think it was really fun, and I loved all the makeup, and I think just seeing the people like do it, like, because we practiced it a couple times with the head splitting, and then when I watched it in the movie, it like comes together so good that it almost looks real.
Yeah, it's an incredible
real
effect.
looking at it. It was crazy when we did ADR on it, little movie magic. I obviously didn't have my head split open.
Obviously, thankfully.
First time seeing it was like we had to go over the ADR like multiple times because every time I'd be like, and Carrie's like, "Are you okay?" Like,
Fantastic.
split open, so you know.
We're about to dive in with some audience questions now, but before we do that, we have to take a moment just to examine the glory of Lynn's earrings. Lynn, can you show off your beautiful earrings, please?
If you notice, I will never be out of toilet paper.
Fantastic. A little quarantine-themed humor. Well, only you could pull those off, Lynn. Really good, really good. So just to let you know, if you're still watching, we have given away all 10 codes for Dreamkatcher. That doesn't mean you can't still submit some questions, but some of the ones I've gotten so far, let's see. Finn, how does it feel to be the youngest person in this horror movie?
Well, I've kind of always wanted to do a movie where there's a bunch of other kids, right? So, like doing the banana splits, there was another girl that was there, so it kind of I didn't feel so much as alone. But once I got to know the cast and the crew, it felt much better because everybody was so nice, and I really liked it.
Fantastic. I
We
think
really
you've got
respected him. I mean, you really were amazing, Finn. I mean,
Thank
you should know that. Tell everybody how old you are, please.
I'm 10.
Wow.
And he was
incredible.
9 when we made the movie. So this, and can I add one thing? You were one of the most prepared actors I've ever worked with, and I thought you did a spectacular job. And I loved being around you. You were focused, you were professional, and you were kind. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Lynn. That means a lot to me.
Well, I honestly mean it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you guys are able to have this little moment here. We got a question for the director, Carrie. What was the most challenging aspect during the filming?
I think the most challenging aspect of the filming was
waking up in the morning.
Honestly, I mean, that's not really a joke. I mean, it's interesting. Like this was the first feature that I'd done, and you know, I think that it's a physical challenge. I mean, that was the funny thing is it's literally you don't sleep for a month or a month and a half if you factor in the pre-production. So I think the biggest physical challenge really was physical, dragging yourself out of bed because you've got so much adrenaline from the day before. You only sleep a couple of hours, and so it really was. You know, it's kind of like being an Olympic athlete or something. I'm certainly not in shape enough to be an Olympic athlete, and I'm barely in shape enough to be a director. But yeah, it was tough physically. So I think that was the biggest challenge, and probably the second biggest challenge was, you know, just dealing with a limited number of shooting days. And what, you know, the thing that I've realized too is it's really not how much money you have, it's how many days that you have to shoot things in. And so, you know, if someone was going to say you can have an extra $200,000 or we'll give you 4 extra days, I think I'd rather have the 4 extra days than the extra $200,000, which ironically would probably get you the 4 extra days. But
oh, that's really interesting. And just real quick, we got a question from somebody who's watching this from Japan and wants to know if you know when Dreamkatcher will be released over there.
I don't know, but I could do a little Google foo while someone else's question is happening and figure out when that's happening.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Let's move on to Radha. Got a question for you here. What was the best and worst part about shooting in upstate New York?
Well, I was sort of told when we were talking about the film that we were going to be shooting 2 hours from New York City and we'd be going to New York City every weekend. And I was like, that's going to be so much fun. And then when I got there, Bovina, which is beautiful and isolated and like very picturesque, but extremely remote. We were like hours from New York. We had no cell phone reception. I was spending a couple of days alone in a cabin with no cell phone reception and no car, and food, just some food.
It's almost like a pandemic.
It was kind of like a pandemic experience. And then so I was like, I can't handle this. So we moved, all of us staying in this big haunted house. Well, not all of us, but quite a few of us were in this big haunted house. I think the biggest challenge for everybody on this set was that we had no cell phone reception. So, you know, we had pigeons, we had smoke signals, but it was tricky.
Yeah, that would be difficult without that tether to technology for sure. Jules, we got a question for you here. Did you enjoy playing the evil character? Is it harder or easier than some of the other roles you've had?
Playing a baddie is always more fun than playing a good guy, right? I mean,
yeah, I think so.
Consensus. But I wouldn't say I'm evil in this. I'll give that to Joseph.
That's true. That's true. Speaking of Joseph, Carrie got another question for you. Was it intimidating to be working with horror legends like Lin Shaye and Joe Bishara on your very first feature?
Well, I had actually worked with Lynn before on that web series, Grip and Electric. So Lynn and I have been friends. How many years have we been friends now?
A long time, and I'm the least scary person on the planet. Yeah, no, I try to be scarier, but it doesn't really.
Oh, you can be scary, Lynn. You can be very scary.
No, so then again, we're friends outside of this. So I mean, and that was actually the idea really behind the film in a lot of ways, is to bring a lot of people that I was friends with together and just kind of have a good time out in the woods and see what came of it. And
we also got to work out story stuff together too. I mean, there was both. I mean, actually, Radha and I especially were, you know, we were participatory in with Carrie, who opened his mind and ears to us, to ideas and to you know, thoughts about dialogue, structure, character.
Well, that's so fantastic.
It was
that
really,
always
I mean,
happen,
yeah,
right?
it makes it a whole lot for me, especially. I mean, I can't speak for Radha, but I'm assuming it's sort of the same. I've learned I'm a pretty good writer. I'm a pretty good got a big mouth. I know what I like and what I think works and doesn't work, and I've learned to have courage. And Carrie was extremely benevolent and open to hearing our ideas, and that really made the whole process a lot more fun for me in particular. And I, as I say, I'm not speaking for Rada, but I would imagine there was a lot of that as well, because it was a real collaboration.
It was like very collaborative, and the fact that we were in such close quarters, I mean, we're all like, you know, living in each other's pockets, literally, gave us time to really we'd be on set, we'd be shooting, we'd come home, we'd still be talking about it. So there was a sort of a shorthand, and having that kind of trust in each other enabled us to experiment. And although we had a limited amount of time, there was a lot we were able to do because we trusted each other.
Yeah. And getting back to Joe for a second, I mean, he is another person that, again, you know, I think if you see Lynn in movies, you'd probably be intimidated, and the same for Joe. But again, someone that I'd met through Lynn, the loveliest person on the planet. I mean, probably more
real gentle man. He's a really great man.
And really, the only intimidation factor is musically, because he's such a great composer as well. So I mean, that was the intimidating thing. Wasn't from a directing standpoint, working with him as an actor. It was going in and working with him on the soundtrack, because he's just unbelievable. So that was truly the intimidating part, was the music side of things. And I just got a text from one of our producers, Christian Taylor, who said that we have there is a distributor in Japan, but just because of the whole COVID thing, they're not sure when it's going to come out, because there are certain countries where this was a theatrical release, and you know, and then there's obviously that's not really happening right now. So I think certain countries are deciding, well, will we hang on to it and try and put it out in theaters, or will we just do streaming and on demand and on Netflix? So it will come out in Japan. It's a question of whether it comes out in theaters or whether it comes out streaming.
Well, we'll definitely keep our ears to the ground as well. And you can let us know when you know specifically, and we'll let our readers know. So whoever's watching from Japan, we'll make sure you know exactly when it's coming out, because we want you to see it. It's worth seeing. And Carrie, it sounds like you were blessed just with a great team all around.
Yeah, I mean, there's one of my favorite directors is Bruce Robinson, who did With Nail and I and How to Get Ahead in Advertising. And he said that, you know, there are three things you need to make a movie. And the first thing is you need a great script. The second thing is you need great actors. And the third thing you need is luck. And, you know, and without all three of those things, you're completely screwed. And we had great actors. We had a great script from Dan Shea. And we had luck. I mean, I think it had rained almost every day of the month before, and then suddenly, miraculously, it didn't rain for the time that we were shooting. But I also think the luck was the crew that we had, that we were really very fortunate that for whatever reason that we just sort of struggled with just the nicest, most talented people who were willing to come aboard, work for not a lot of money, come up to upstate New York. So that, you know, we definitely had the luck side in the weather and everything timing out, but we just had the luck of these amazing people that
we lucked out with George Weezer for sure.
George Weezer, also an amazing cinematographer who did a great job. I mean, really everyone did a fantastic job on the film. So again, and usually that sounds like someone's just saying that, and you know, and it was a nightmare. But no, everyone legitimately was just fantastic. So I feel very grateful. So we had luck on our side, and that luck definitely was that crew.
Fantastic. You know, before I go back to some of the viewer questions, you know, I wanted to talk to you, Carrie, a little bit about the whole mythology you created. Since it says on IMDb that you also came up with the story for Dreamkatcher as well. Are there really such a thing as evil dream catchers, or was this something that you kind of just mused on your own?
No, I have a friend that I was staying with up in Toronto, and he that's the mythologist. They just sometimes appear in live video.
Carrie made this. He actually brought it to my house.
Wow.
I didn't make that. Although I will.
Have you been okay since?
No, that's the problem.
That's why
then the pandemic started.
Pandemic? Sorry.
So the mythology came from originally. I was at a friend's house, and he had a guest room, and I looked in, and there's a dream catcher on the wall, and I just I looked at the bed underneath, and I was like, you know, everyone always complains going to bedrooms about like clean sheets, whether the room smells or not. But it's like, to me, what I would worry about is like, is the dream catcher clean? What's the last person like that's been sleeping there? And, what dreams have they let into this dream catcher? So that's what sort of started the idea of, the idea that there could possibly be an evil dream catcher, and that, something that you associate with good actually, might in the right circumstances do bad things. And it's interesting. I spoke to a friend of mine who lives on a reservation. I asked him, because I was a little bit worried that it might be a sensitive topic, and he was like, "You mean the things that they sell in truck stops?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You're fine."
Yeah. That's
No
good to
worries
know.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lynn, that was great showing off your dream catcher. Do any of the rest of you have dream catchers?
I burnt mine.
It's never gone, honey.
Uh-oh. You tried to burn it.
Really, you tried to burn it.
I don't know where it's still around somewhere.
Finn, someone wants to know how you first got into acting.
Well, how I first got into acting, so my brother was originally an actor. And so one time he tried out for this movie called Kindness of Strangers. And for years my mom kept telling me, like, because I would read over the lines of my brother's auditions, and my mom for years told me, "You're really natural, you should get into acting." And I kept saying, "Maybe next year, next year, next year." And finally, when I was like 7 or 8, my brother tried out for the Kindness of Strangers, and I decided to do it too. I started out with a tape, and then I went in person, and I ended up getting it. So that was the first movie I ever got, and then I decided I really liked it. So
Did you and your brother get into a fight?
I was just going to ask that question.
Did you and your brother get into a fight?
No.
Good. Right on. Well, that's great. We're nearing the final 5 minutes here, but I'd love to give each of you a chance to talk about what you've got what you all are working on next. Finn, do you want to start?
Yeah. So I just finished working on a movie with Robin Wright called
wow.
Land.
Fantastic. Called Land. Yeah, I read about that on IMDb.
That's great.
What can you tell us?
I can't actually tell you anything about the plot, but it was great cast, great crew, and it was just a great movie in all of it.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what you do next, whether it's horror or not. You're a fantastic actor, and you got a great career ahead of you. And thanks again for participating in this. Jules, I know that in addition to finishing Dreamcatcher, you just finished a movie called Alone, which I was lucky enough to get to see an advanced screening of, and I think it's fantastic.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm really proud of that one.
I mean, it put a knot in the pit of my stomach that just would not go away. Do you want to talk a little bit about Alone and whatever else you're working on next?
Yeah, it's actually the last film festival before everything closed down, and won Best Feature and Actress and Actor. Mark Menchaca is the other actor there in the film with me, and you just saw him in Outsider and Ozark. He's a class act, wonderful actor. And it's a thriller. It's like a throwback thriller based off of a Swedish film called Gone. And I think we're just kind of figuring out what's going on with distribution with what's happening right now. But it's a really, John Hines directed it, and he's an extraordinary director, and I'm really happy and thrilled and proud of everybody that worked on that film.
Yeah, it's beautifully shot, and I think that people are going to love it when they see it.
Can't wait. I can't wait. And because so much streaming is happening, I think that we'll find a home for it that way.
Sure.
Soon. And then I've got Dirty John season 2 coming out June 1st. June 1st, everybody. And
Fantastic.
the Betty Broderick story. So there's kind of like a horror-ish aspect to that. She murdered her husband. No spoiler alert, but it's a real true crime story. And then while I was shooting this, I was shooting Sofia Coppola's new film with Bill Murray and Rashida Jones. So
beautiful,
fantastic.
Yeah, so it's good to get some stuff done before
right before your forced hiatus.
Yeah.
Rada, what are you working on these days?
Right now, just breathing. But I've got a film called Run, Hide, Fight, which is coming out. I don't know when, to be determined. And another film called Two Hearts, which supposedly is getting distributed in September. But again, I don't know if that's wishful thinking. That's a really sweet story about a lung transplant and how it transforms the lives of these two men who kind of sort of interact through this experience. And it's very emotional, very kind of life affirming. Run, Hide, Fight, I guess it's kind of a thriller too. It's set in a high school, and it's about a high school shooting. And I play a character similar to Jules's character, not evil, but who's a presence. She's not alive. She's kind of like a ghost or a mentor or something like this, that is guiding her daughter, who's basically taking on the bad guy in this high school situation. So it's pretty interesting. Apparently it's pretty good. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, we can't wait to check it out.
Yeah. Well, there's another one I can't talk about. I can't even really talk about it at all, but I'm excited about it. It's very rock and roll.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. Dot on that.
Yeah.
Now, Lynn, I know you're always working on something. You got like 5 films in post-production right now. What are you most excited about?
Well, as I said, Penny Dreadful is up and running, and we haven't met my character yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out, and just excited about the storyline and who this woman is. There was another film that we were shooting while I was doing Penny Dreadful during that period called The Call, which is, I guess, Timothy Woodward Jr. directed it, who's a very incredibly talented young director. He did a movie called The Final Wish that I did not very long ago, and he did a Western called The Outsiders. He kind of blew in from, I think it's either South or North Carolina, I forget which one, and is just a nonstop doer. And he directed this. And my manager actually was one of the producers on it. I got involved with that part as well, but she sort of put it together in terms of Patrick Stibbs is the writer, who is a client. I don't know if he's a client or a friend of hers, but it's a really exciting story about a woman it's really kind of about bullying. This woman who lives in this town, just a very nice woman who runs a preschool daycare, and a little girl goes missing, and the town blames her and has sort of started this rumor that she killed this child, and what happens to her and who she becomes through this process. And it really ignited. For me in particular, there were a couple of days of shooting where that thing happens as an actor, where that thing happens, where you can plan how you want it to go, you plan how you think the dialogue should be, how the temperament is during that point in the story, and it just took on its own life. And it was really one of those few moments that you have only a few of, I think, in your career, really. And I had a couple of those on this story, so I'm very curious to see how it plays out. I think the working title was The Call, and I think it will be called that as well. So those were really the last 2 things. Then I'm available. What can I say?
Well, I know you're gonna be in a lot because we love you in our horror movies. So
thank you. I love working. I love all of you guys. And Carrie, thank you for hiring me. And thank you.
Thank you guys for doing this. And also, I just want to say to our producers too, who aren't here, Orion Williams, and
Christian
Taylor, Annie Stewart, Matt Cochran. I mean, we were so lucky to have you guys, and especially Taylor Lane, Christian, and Tina just did such an amazing job. And this movie would not have happened without them. So thank you guys, and also Henry Thomas, who's not here tonight, who did a fantastic job in the movie.
He did.
And is a lovely guy too. He couldn't be here, but again, thank you, Henry, for doing the movie, and again, thank all of you guys.
It's so hard to get a film. It's so hard to get a film made, and when you finally do it and it's in the can and you can look back on the experience, I don't think there's anything like it. I love that part almost as much as acting. I mean, there's some process that, again, has a life of its own. It's made up of all the pieces, and all of you are the pieces, you know, and especially Carrie's sort of the big carrot.
It's a minor miracle to get a movie made, and again,
Really?
I just have so much respect for anyone that makes a movie that it's like, it's easy to be snide about movies and stuff, but it's just like, look, anyone that makes a movie,
It's a miracle.
It's a total miracle, and my hat is off to anyone that does it, especially after this experience. So
hats off to you, Carrie Harris.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you all. That brings us to the end of our time. But Carrie, any final words before we say goodbye to our viewers?
Again, it's just the same thing, which is I think that it's like anytime a film gets made, it's an incredible thing, and I just feel very grateful that I got to get together with a bunch of really lovely people and just go have fun for a month. I mean, no one really gets to do that, so I just feel, I don't know how it happened basically, but I just feel super grateful about it. So again, just the best cast and the best crew, and it sounds very trite, but in this case, it's absolutely true. And
it really shows.
The right choice. I will say that's the one thing is that we really lucked out with Finn. So thank you, Finn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Finn. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, Lynn, Jules, Rada. Thank you all so much. And thank all of you for tuning in, all of our Dread Central viewers and readers. Don't forget to check out Dreamkatcher. It's playing now. It's a fantastic film. And stay tuned to Dread for more live Q&A panels just like the one you're watching now. Have a great evening, everyone, and